Welcome to Empowering Plans, a show dedicated to identifying waste and undue expense in the health benefits industry, discovering ways to maximize benefits while minimizing costs, and empowering employers, administrators, and consultants to emphasize, once again, the benefit in benefit plan. Today's episode is brought to you by the Phia Group, empowering plans since 1999. Now here are your hosts, the Phia Group's own CEO, Adam Russo, and Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Ron Peck.
And Brady.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Empowering Plans with the Phia Group. I am your co-host, Adam Russo, and with me, as always, my good friend, our Senior VP and General Counsel, Ron Peck. Say hello, Ron.
Hello, Ron.
And our newest co-host, he's the best, he's the brightest, he's the political insider. Say hello to Brady Bizzarro. Say hello, Brady.
Hello, Brady.
Guys, I love Texas. There's something about that state. You know, I don't know what it is. Like, all I know is this, right? When you're in Texas and you put on the television, they literally have, get the Chevy Silverado Texas edition. Like, I don't see a GMC Sierra Massachusetts edition. Like, how come we don't have our own edition of truck?
You know, at one point, Adam, I think LL Bean had a New England edition. All it was better mats on the floor because it's so nasty, the weather here. But Texas is bigger, better, stronger, bolder.
So Brady and I had the luxury, and this ties into our guest today. He is from Texas. But, you know, Brady and I got to go to the Caprock event down in Dallas a few weeks ago. Caprock is the TPA that we've been working with for many years since their inception. I mean, they have the same culture as Phia. They've grown at the same rate as Phia. It's like we've both grown up together in the industry at the same exact time. Well, Brady and I, you know, Brady's not stupid. He's like, hey, the boss is in town. He's going to take me to dinner. You know, let's order top shelf. You know, let's make this guy spend some money. Right, Brady?
It was great, yeah.
I mean, Brady's literally ordering like $100 shots, Ron. I mean, this kid there was no well drinks. There was no tap. Everything was the most expensive thing you possibly
So that's
buy.
where our Christmas bonus went. All right, Brady,
Maybe.
thanks.
Yeah, that cheesecake was pretty big.
Speaking of, so we're at dinner, okay? You know, it's the biggest steak you're ever going to eat. You know, they can't just give you a regular side of potatoes. Like, really? Two people do not need this much sides. But what took it over the top was Brady said, you know, so the guy's like, are you guys still hungry? And Brady and I were like, yeah, I guess maybe we could share a dessert. Ron, 24 people could have shared this dessert. They brought out the cheesecake. Not a piece of cheesecake, the
cake.
cheesecake. Like, the entire wheel of cheese. But anyways, I just had to share that story. But anyways, I want to make sure everyone knows the gentleman that we asked us to be on today is an amazing speaker, a very well-versed man. It's Mr. John Farnsley. He's the Executive Vice President of Sales at Caprock. And before I have Ron do his intro, the reason I wanted him on, I have the luxury of every week traveling to a different conference. And every week I roll my eyes. I'm like, I heard that before. I heard the same, you know what, crap again. And then he got up there. And I'll be straightforward. I did not expect a lot. You know, I'm like, oh, well, you know, your typical speakers. And then John gets up there, and I'm not lying. I learned a lot. In that hour, there was a lot of information that I've taken from that to make not only our company better, but to better serve our clients. So I think that's a testament to Mr. Farnsley. Ron, you want to just
Yeah, you know,
say a couple
speaking
words?
of the event where you and Brady were attending and where you heard John speaking and really sort of what led to us inviting him to this podcast, it was like that scene in Back to the Future where he was up on stage speaking and you called me on the phone and you said, Ron, you know that new sound we're looking for? Listen. It was I've rarely seen you that excited about a speaker. So to have him on the podcast so soon after, we really do appreciate you attending, John.
So just so everyone knows, as Executive Vice President, John's responsible for expanding into new markets, gaining additional market shares, securing Caprock's relationship with existing clients. He's been all over the place. He was with HealthSmart. He was involved in the acquisition of multiple TPAs, PPOs, care management firms, and PBMs. Huge background in managed care, worked over 20 years in sales, product development, and executive leadership roles. The guy's just a great man, got 2 kids, married, joined Caprock in 2011, which is not a coincidence when they started getting big.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we do a nice welcome to John. John, you there?
I am here, man. Thanks for the warm intro. I appreciate it.
Listen, we at least want to make you feel good, you know, at the beginning. We'll beat you down as the time goes on, but we want to make you feel pretty good at the beginning. But I just want to say thank you so much. I meant what I said. Brady, you want anything to add? You were actually there with me. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, no, I was blown away too. I mean, there was a lot of speakers, but I think what John said really stood out, and I think where the industry is going, Caprock has their finger on the pulse for sure.
So I have a two-part question. It's really one question, but I sort of want to get your own insights, John, on this. So very simply,
Sure.
Since 2011 to now, in your opinion, how has the industry changed? Of the self-insured industry, how has it changed? And because of that, how has your actual job changed? I thought that'd be interesting to start off with just that.
Sure. First, I want to back up, though. Thanks for, you guys came down and you helped with our forum, and you did a great job. And I really appreciated, after I spoke, Adam was kind enough to get up to all the people that were there and say, hey, by the way, Farnsley really sucks normally, so he was good today. I really appreciate it.
I wasn't going to say that to the podcast. I wasn't going to bring that up, but I did say that to the whole audience. I'm like, this guy's usually horrible. Like, I don't know what happened. He's changed. Like, no, but honestly, you're amazing. But so thanks for that.
No, I've gotten several calls from brokers that go, hey, I'm glad I was there on the day you didn't suck. Thanks. So, no. Hey, and really good question. What's changed and kind of where have we changed? The industry, first, I think it's cool. And I talked a little bit about it at the forum. If you are a complete and absolute nerd and never had a date in your life, you actually learn things like health insurance history, and just saying that out loud kind of makes you bored, right? But if you look at health insurance industry and you look at the history of it, about every 25 to 30 years, it literally reinvents itself. And we are sitting right in the middle of one of those periods when it's reinventing itself. And that's a cool place to be. And I tell people all the time when we talk, this is the greatest time ever to be in our industry. You get to shape where it's going to go. You get to kind of lead where the industry is going to go. And if you understand kind of the background, where it's been, where it's going, there's just huge opportunity. And I think when you look back over the last 8-10 years, the single biggest thing that if you can point to one thing and say what's really changed, I think it's awareness with people to this whole issue, the issue of the unit cost in healthcare, which drives everything. Our industry, gosh, we stink. We're the worst in the world at, we do a great job of addressing the symptom, but we hardly ever address the problem. And when I'll talk to people all the time, and I'll always use the Affordable Care Act, and I'm not for it, against it, not this in the political commentary. There were some good things that came out of it. But, when you remember when the Affordable Care Act was kind of sold to the public, it was sold under this premise that the problem in the world was underinsured or people that didn't have insurance. And that was the problem they were trying to address. When in reality, that was not the problem at all. The problem simply was insurance costs too much and people can't afford to buy insurance. And so we completely missed the problem, and we ended up subsidizing an already subsidized industry, which is the absolute wrong way to fix it. So we're terrible about that. But in the last 10 years, all of a sudden people have started realizing, hey, the problem is this unit cost thing everybody keeps talking about, and there's finally some transparency on cost. There's finally some realization that it's not so much who's paying for the healthcare, it's how much are they paying. And that's a lot more fun conversation to get in with people, because once you start getting to how much you're paying, why you're paying the amounts you're paying, and what you're doing, there really are solutions out there. The other thing that kind of gets crazy about our industry is people will stand up there, and you guys see it. You see it all the time with people, and they'll be getting this giant increase on their health insurance, and it's just, well, I guess it's just health insurance.
It's the way it is.
It costs more. That's just the way it is. Yeah,
well,
and that's
speaking
baloney. It doesn't have to.
Speaking on what you just said,
Go ahead.
so what is selling? Like what's hot right now? Like when you're out there and you're trying to sell to a prospect, what's hot? What's selling? What's not selling?
Different variations of direct contracting, and that can be a lot, but it can go. One of the things that we talk about a lot with clients is, as an employer, you have no idea how much that hospital would love to have you come in. If you're an employer group, to go sit in front of your local hospital and say, hey, I got a problem. My healthcare cost is out of control, and you're the main supplier of healthcare. How do we fix this? Hospitals love that conversation. Go to your local hospital, sit in front of them, get a meeting. Guess what? They'll help you. They'll do client-specific rates that'll help your health plan. So there's a lot you can do if you will actually meet with your hospital.
You know the funny thing, you say that, right? So I hear this all the time now, and I'm really happy you brought that up. I've had hospitals tell me, listen, we won't make a deal with the TPA because they don't want the TPA going around telling everyone they have better deals than Blue Cross, United, or Cigna. But they will make a deal every single day with an employer group directly, because they can sell that as, we're stewards of the community. We're reaching out to employers. We want to give employers a better deal. So I agree with you. So The last thing I want to ask before I turn it over to these guys, and I apologize, my co-hosts, I'm just so excited to have John on the phone. Very simply, what's different about the conversation with an employer prospect from 10 years ago than today? What's different? What's changed?
Well, when we talk to employers today, first of all, there's some things that are the same. If you go back literally for the last 50 years and you sit and you really boil it down to the simplest form, what do clients want? They ask for the same thing today they did 50 years ago. I want cost, quality, and access, right? I want a low-cost health plan, high-quality docs, and I want lots of choices. That's what I want. That piece has not changed at all. What has changed a lot is people are actually willing to get engaged in the process. Employers are willing to get engaged in the process and not simply take some canned product and hear hey, well, you just got a 15% increase because you got a 15% increase. Because of all the things that have happened over the last 8 years, ACA, the hoops they've been required to jump through, the fact that costs are still going up way more than they ever have. I mean, every 10 years, the cost of a health plan doubles. Employers are actually going, okay, let's talk about this. Bring me some options. Show me something different. As opposed to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, economy's rolling along, things are great. Yeah, you can show them some stuff, but they wanted to just kind of keep doing things the way they were doing. Today, employers are willing to listen to you. If you've got a good idea, if you've really got a solution for an employer, they'll sit down and they'll listen to you and they'll talk to you.
So, John, you just mentioned cost, quality, and access, and that's pretty much the foundation of what every employer has been asking for since the beginning of time. And I agree with you. I think now, maybe more than in the past, we're starting to really appreciate that you can't necessarily always have all three things. I think that need for access to everybody, like you said, choices, is maybe what led to the PPOs expanding to the point that they can no longer really leverage steerage in order to achieve a better deal, and that affects your cost. If you sit down with an employer and you're explaining to them, I understand these are the three things you need, but you're going to have to sacrifice some in order to get others. Do you feel as if they're able to prioritize, or are they completely lost when it comes down to that?
Well, first of all, I think as an employer, it's our job. It's not the employer's job. Our job is to sit and explain to them why. Nobody cares about the how until they understand the why. Sure. So you've got to sit with an employer and understand, here's why we are where we're at, and here's why things are structured the way they are, and here's how you can create solutions that'll work for you. And, I'll tell you, I disagree. I think you can do the cost, quality, access. Now, it looks a little different. It's not the any and any that I call it, where I want to go see any doctor anytime, any place. Here's my $20 copay. Give me some health care. That doesn't work. But there's no quality component to that anyway. So I don't think that fits the model as it is. I think we can build plans today, not for every group. And man, I feel bad if it's the, that 7-Life fully insured group. There's pretty limited options. But if you're a large employer group that can be self-funded, to be able to go in and plug in high-performance networks wrapped with RBR plans with really high-quality docs and offer that side-by-side with broad access, where as a member, I get to choose what's best for me. Hey, Ron, you want to take $100 more out of your paycheck? Knock yourself out. Here's the broad network access. Adam, you know what? You're a little cheaper. I hear you're a little bit cheap. So you may want to take this plan that costs $100 or less a month. But guess what? We're getting you the highest quality providers, and we're showing you the metrics that show why they're the high quality providers at really low cost. And you had a choice what you wanted to do. In that vein, if you will, I've got cost, quality, and access down to the employee level, so I can offer every employee exactly what they want. I think you can create those solutions.
So it seems to me that in that scenario, and I agree with you, it's going to require a lot more transparency, education, and guidance as far as both the employer and employee is concerned, because the feeling is these days they buy a packaged, and you called it sort of the any plan, right, where they're buying a packaged product, and there's this feeling that somebody else has already made the decision for them, and there really is no customization there for them. Do you find that when you're sitting down with employers, what's the reaction to that, where you're basically saying, look, you're going to have to make some choices and you're going to have to customize your program?
Well, the reaction is terrible if you don't go through the why first. If you don't sit down and take, one of the things that we try to do, and it literally, it's crazy, you can do it in 20, 25 minutes. It doesn't take that long, is to help an employer understand, hey, here's why the system is the way it is. And it's important you understand that, because you'll hear, gosh, if you're an employer, you heard ACA was going to fix stuff, right? And then it was going to be repeal and reform, and something will come out tomorrow that's going to fix everything. But when they really understand, you as an employer are getting cost shifted against like crazy. I mean, you just are. That's just the way the world works. On the commercial side, you're getting this massive cost shift that you're having to bear the brunt of. And to simply keep doing what you're doing won't work. And you lay it all out, do it unemotionally, say, here's the facts, here's what's going on. at that point, employers start listening. And so then it turns it from, hey, Mr. Employer, bad news, you got to do something different. It's really, hey, Mr. Employer, good news. There are some options out there. There are ways out there that you can significantly lower your healthcare costs. You guys see it with your plan that you guys have put in place for your own employees. It's not impossible. You really can solve the problem. And once employers realize that you're trying to do something for them and not to them, their whole attitude changes.
Hey, John, this is Brady. I want to switch gears a little bit. I think all those points are really great in terms of the hot button issues we're seeing, but I want to talk about some of the threats that we are seeing as well. Every so many months here at Phia, we like to just take stock of the issues that we've been seeing and put together, rank order a list of what we think are the biggest threats to the industry. And we're curious to see what your perspective on that is. What do you think is, right now, one of the biggest threats to the industry? Is it something to do with, reinsurance? Is it some kind of legislation, perhaps, or lack thereof? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of an optimist at heart, so sure there are threats out there, but I don't see doom and gloom out there. There are some things that are going to be a challenge for us. You touched on one. I think the reinsurance market, we kind of see hardening, and there's some challenges within that, but it's okay. There's going to be a lot of great players in that space that allow us to go forward. Probably the biggest threat always to our industry is the same thing. It's government. It's the government that's here to help you. And the more the government gets involved and the more they help you, the worse off things tend to be. And the more we can get government out of this space, the better we are. Government is coming more and more. We don't know what repeal reform, what that's going to look like, what the next iteration of healthcare reform is going to look like. But generally speaking, anytime the government steps in to help you and make things better, it ends up getting pretty hairy for you. So my biggest concern, I guess, on a go-forward basis is just the government trying to help us, because that never really works.
Yeah, I think the theme I would probably take from that is uncertainty, right? Any industry is going to have a hard time operating and planning and investing and going forward if you don't know what they're going to do. And I forget which politician it was who said that government, you want to strangle it in a bathtub, but it may have been Reagan. But someone said that, and I think the problem, we agree, the problem is we don't know exactly where the direction is going to take us. And so, for planning purposes, it's tough to know, which benefits you have to offer and what's going to happen with association health plans, for example. And we look forward to seeing what develops with the government as well. But in the meantime, we are putting on our political prognostication hats, and we like to try to make guesses as to what's going to happen. I'm better at that, I think, than Ron is, but he's getting better at it as we go along.
Well, I find that if I don't make any predictions, I can never make any wrong predictions. So, I'm batting 100 when it comes to that. John, getting a little bit more specific as far as hot topics and issues and things that particularly third-party administrators may be seeing. The Phia Group, we work with a lot of different TPAs, stop-loss carriers, employers, brokers, etc. And what's amazing is I feel as if every client, every partner that we talk to, they come to us and they always preface the submission, the issue, the question with one of two statements. Either A, I bet you guys see this all the time, or B, I bet you've never seen this before. And what's funny is 9 times out of 10, the thing that they think is happening to everybody is only happening to them. And the things that they think are happening to no one but them are happening to everybody. So I got to ask you, in your own shop, what's keeping you up at night? And of those things, which do you think may be industry-wide, and which do you think are probably just a freak incident that's only happened once and it'll never happen again?
Well, there's a lot of those that unfortunately continue to happen. And, the things that keep us awake at night are probably what keeps other TPAs awake at night. We are sitting here right now in-house with a $5 million claim that we're working on. That wasn't that long ago when the concept of a $5 million claim was unheard of and insane. And today, it's not normal, but they happen. And so the thing that probably keeps us up at night more than anything are just the charges coming out of hospitals, and just the fact that it is so out of control. The cost shift continues to grow and grow and grow. And really, there's not a lot of focus on that. There's much more focus than there was 10 years ago, but there's not the kind of focus that I think there should be, I guess. Honestly, I see some of the things, and you guys, again, I'll use what you said. You see it all the time, I know, because TPAs are talking to you about claims. Some of the things that we see on the claim side are just borderline immoral. I mean, the charges are immoral, for lack of a better term. And we see that continuing, and we see that growing, and that's a challenge to deal with. Ultimately, I think we'll see court cases that bring to light some of the charge master, things that we deal with, you guys deal with every single day. But until that actually gets out into the bright light of day and people understand and move the conversation away from who's paying for healthcare to how much they're paying for healthcare, that's the difference. And nobody really wants to talk about how much they're paying. It's simply who's paying it. And the charges that we see are just unsustainable. So the thing that keeps me awake at night is probably the charges that we're seeing and how we're continuing to see them grow. We also, I will tell you, at least in Texas, and I think this is probably occurring in other states as well. I know a little bit in California. I know a little bit in Florida. Over the last 10 years, TPAs have kind of gone down the road of reference-based plans, narrow network plans, whatever, by region, there's different ways of solving problems. And we've really seen the hospitals begin to band together because they are adamant in not wanting those reference-based plans and those narrow network plans and a lot of the plans that they don't like to gain a foothold. And so there's been collusion is kind of a hard word, but I have seen markets where it's absolute collusions with the hospitals coming together and saying, we've got to do everything we can to not let this get a foothold, because once it gets in, we know that it's hard to get out.
It's funny. You mentioned these claims and how it seems like the top's been blown off of. I'm almost thinking, Brady, Adam, what we have to do is have a contest, and you have to keep track of your claims as a client or a partner of the Phia group. You keep track of your claims. And at the end of the year, you tell us what your highest dollar claim was. And whichever client had the highest dollar claim, they win the prize, and we'll buy them like a lobster dinner or something like that. This way, even when you're losing, you're winning. What do you think about that, John? Would that make it easier to swallow?
Well, at least I'd get a meal at the end of it.
There you go. I don't know if you'll be able to keep it down when you look at some of these bills, but so Brady, any parting thoughts before we let this man go do his good work?
I think we covered quite a lot of ground. I think we should be watching. We reference reference-based pricing and watching that Virginia lawsuit, and I think we agree. We see a lot of providers pushing back against reference-based pricing, especially here in the Northeast. And I think, though, overall, the points made about the switch from, say, fee-for-service to value care is going to continue, and we're going to keep fighting the good fight, right?
So, John, what are the last thoughts you want to leave our audience with?
You know what? I'll leave them with this. Phia Group, you guys have done a great job for us, and it's amazing to see how much you have grown. And just looking at your team and what you guys have put together, amazing job. You guys, hats off to you guys. Adam's kind of said it. We started working with you guys when it was 4 guys in a cubicle back there, and to see what you guys have grown into is amazing. So hats off to you. You've done a tremendous job. Keep on fighting the good fight for the industry, man.
Fantastic. Adam, you want to see us off?
I want to thank everyone so much for being on today's podcast. I want to thank Mr. John Farnsley. I want to thank Brady Bizzaro, Ron Peck. Also want to thank a good producer. Why am I forgetting his name? I'm kidding. I want to thank our great producer, Pat Santos, and also thank myself for being a part of this great team. So on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for empowering your plans with the Phia Group.